extra mile, and she's waiting to have her baby until this weekend is done. Jane Hettinger is waiting to get married till this is over. And Elaine Winters Clavey, you don't know this, but we started having these meetings back in February to get this organized, and Elaine really wanted to be a part of it, so she put her car in the ditch once coming to a meeting, and then she got picked up for speeding another time, so she was really dedicated to the cause. Also, if you see Joe Mueller, he's the guy who designed the cover of the program and the sign that's right here, and he did a great job with that. Doug Kaiser toiled endlessly at his computer doing the program and the letter and getting everybody's addresses, and so I think a special thanks goes to Doug, and who has kept the money for this. Scott got to this job of being the treasurer because he missed the first meeting, and we found out that he was coming back to Fort Dodge and what his address was, so we put it on the letter. And so that's how Scott started with the job. I think the next thing we're going to do is have Jane and Elaine and Karen come up, and they've got some gifts that they want to give away, so you ladies like to come forward.
To the classmate that came the furthest, and the male classmate that came the furthest is Jeff Osmondson. Congratulations, Jeff. Thanks for coming. And the lady that came the farthest was okay, now is the classmate with the most children. And he got 5 kids, 4 girls and 1 boy. Julie, come on, Julie Crowe McGinnis. And look at the figure on that lady. Would you believe that? That came back. What do we do? Okay, here are the bachelorettes. Mo Kane. Hey, Kane, you gonna make it? Julie Thisson, Michelle Ryan, Leanne Streff, Luann Garbulia. I never did learn how to pronounce Luann's name. Mary Kelleher, Rhonda Hibbs, Joanne Olson, and Cindy Whitcomb. Now we're gonna draw for that. Where you're at, there you are. We're done. That's it.
Someone had taped it. When it came for me to start the paper, I introduced myself as senior of the president class instead of president of the senior class. Now I've got these out of order. You know, next, graduation pictures caused me plenty of embarrassment. I had my brand new leisure suit at the time. And I really looked pretty nice in that. My mom thought I did anyway. But the pictures that we got back, the proofs, were unbelievable. If you've ever seen your reflection in any shiny round surface, such as a chrome coffee pot or a Christmas ornament, that's the way my pictures came back. And they were mostly all nose and a little bit of hair in the back. So I had them taken again, and we ended up with the same problem. So out of the 20 or so proofs that were taken, there was one profile, one side shot, and that's the one that made it in the yearbook. When I hear the expression glory days associated with the end of high school, I remember that day that I locked myself in the bathroom at the gas station. It was a Labor Day weekend, this time about 10 years ago. And it happened inside the station. The latch on the door was bad, and I slowly realized that I could be in trouble here. And then when the knob came off in my hand, I knew I was in trouble. I could hear people talking in the lobby of the station. And it wasn't long before a pretty good crowd had gathered. Some, of course, waiting to use the restroom. And one desperate soul knocked on the door and asked if anyone was in there, so I told him I couldn't get out. found that pretty amusing, and I heard him yell to one of his friends that, "Hey, some guy's locked in the bathroom." Well, I didn't think it was the least bit amusing because I was the only station attendant on duty at the time. I slipped the manager's phone number under the door, and I took a dime out of the coin changer that I had on my belt. And 45 minutes later, the station manager showed up. They ended up prying the door off. Some of those people in the lobby waited to see who this dreadful thing had happened to, and to pay for their gas. There were some checks on the counter, but some people just drove off. I got pretty tired of customers coming in and saying, "Oh, you're that guy that was locked in the restroom." So with the school year approaching, I was happy to give my notice and quit that job. A little over a month later, I gave a speech in the auditorium and was elected president of the class. And for that reason, and only that reason, I stand in front of the husbands and wives and friends of the class of '76 and feel awesomely embarrassed. Let's look back at 1976. President Ford and Jimmy Carter are debating on TV. After debating 3 times, Carter won a close election to become our next president. Do you remember the Moonies? Here's a typical situation. You've made it to the airport. You're retired. You're from a small town, and you're on your first and only trip to Hawaii, and it's been a long day. The surroundings are unfamiliar, and you're confused. And suddenly an attractive young person pins a flower to your coat and says, "You remind me of my mom and dad, and how wonderful you are." And then they ask for money. The Reverend Sun Young Moon ended his ministry in 1976. Remember the postage stamp? He fixed that to letters at 13 cents. 29 people died while attending a convention, and they called that Legionnaire's disease. Nadia Comaneci scored 7 tens and won 3 gold medals for Romania in the Summer Olympics. And the U.S. Air Force Academy admitted women for the first time that year. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, what a dynasty they had. They won over Dallas 21-17 to win the Super Bowl. Reminiscing with each other during this reunion takes us back to the time when those events were history in the making. Old friends return the past in a way that we ourselves are often unable to do. The memories of our friends paint vivid pictures for us to see ourselves as we were. And suddenly our younger selves become very familiar to us. The members of our class that were able to be here can share in this. It's a warm feeling. It feels good to know your friend has carried a memory of you around for all those years. Nice gifts for us to give to each other. I know that Phil has already mentioned it, but on behalf of the rest of the class, I too would like to thank the reunion committee for all the efforts.
Doctor of Dentistry living in Ames, Vice President of the Student Council, Tom Stark. They had to go pretty far down the list to find somebody stupid enough to get up here. I too got a call from Mr. Kaiser not too long ago. It might have been, what, 5 minutes ago? And asked me to speak, and I thought about what I could say, and I couldn't think of anything. So whatever I'm going to say tonight is what he told me. So it's his fault. I thought I could talk about about how life is different, from then to now, 10 years ago. About how maybe some of us have lost some hair, and some of our hair has gotten a little grayer, and maybe we've gotten a few more wrinkles and a few more pounds. Thought about 10 years ago about how we all used to try and look older. Now how we all try and look younger.
except for Mike Lose, I think. You know, I thought about how we used to talk differently, you know. I don't think anybody says, scratch off, scratch except for maybe Dave Heller. So I tried to think about what I could talk about tonight. I'm still thinking about it. Thought maybe I could read from my high school diary, but I didn't keep one. Thought maybe I could read some old love letters from Chris Lee, but I don't think she sent me any. So I thought some more, and I thought about something in my drawer I haven't really even worn since back then, but I've got an old football jersey. It says St. Edmonds Pride on it. And I thought about that word, pride. And I thought it might be kind of an appropriate word for us to use tonight, pride. Pride in our religious faith, pride in our school, pride in Fort Dodge, pride in the state of Iowa. I lived down in Texas for a couple of years, and Ku Klux Klan is still alive and well down there, and Catholics are the second most hated group down there, next to the blacks. I listened to a Baptist radio call-in show, I think about a year ago, and the whole topic was about Catholics, and they were kind of down for a couple hours. I think some people around town, even some of us, have probably unfairly criticized St. Edmonds, and there's plenty of people making fun of Fort Dodge, and there's a ton of people around the country making fun of Iowa, particularly these days. So I think, well, maybe we should take a stand of pride when the subject of Catholics or Fort Dodge or St. Edmonds or Iowa comes up, because that's what we are, and inside we're all very proud of that fact. So I think maybe we should look with pride to our past, and then look to our future, and as Coach Jimmy Elwanger would say, with commitment and dedication. Also, you know, I'd like to say something about those three people that really couldn't be here tonight. Greg Weideman, Dick Barrett, and Tom Maher. In about a week, it'll be probably, I think it's the 6-year anniversary of Tom Maher's passing. And I was one of his pallbearers. And I remember that day that my mom said to me, she said, you know, Tom Maher really got a lot of living in his 22 years of life. And, you know, that still kind of sits with me. I think that's something that we should all take to heart. We never know when it's going to happen to us. Earl Nightingale said one time, he said, he had a quote about, look well to this one day, for it and it alone is life. Yesterday is just a dream, tomorrow is but a vision. Yet each day well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and each tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well to this one day, for it and it alone is life. I think we should do that.
And finally, we come to our third and final speaker. He's the guy who at one time uttered those immortal words while running for secretary of the student council. I can type 12 minutes, 12 words a minute, but I can bench 210. Bob here.
Oh, Phil must have been pretty nervous and standing in a puddle up there. Supposed to make a few corrections on the gifts they gave out. Gave Julie McGinnis the present for the person with the most kids, and if John Price bragging in the bathroom was right last year, I'd say he's got a few more than she does. I saw that Doug Kaiser was here with his wife tonight. I'm glad to see that. I never liked the way he looked at me in gym class. So. Oh boy. I guess that's about it. So.